2020. The time is 5:18 p.m. Joanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel,
Here.
Commissioner Rollins,
Here.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Here.
Commissioner Wright.
Here.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any changes to the agenda? Everybody good with it? Okay. It's now time for public requests. If you'd step to the podium and give your name and your address. We would love to hear from Tom Thayer.
Hey, good morning. Tom Thayer here, 4821 North Dixie Highway in Boca Raton, Florida. And I'm not going to talk about all the problems you guys face and doing fisticuffs with the city commission. So what I am going to talk about, we're back on kind of a regular schedule now. So the Federation of Boca Raton Homeowners Association will be back on their regular schedule tomorrow. 8 o'clock, the doors open, 8:30 the program starts. And you're all welcome. It's all free. It's in the community center in the Silver Palm Room. Coffee will be ready at 8 o'clock. Stop by. Our program, and look at this fellow coming down the hall. It's like he belongs here. Anyway, our headliner tomorrow is going to be Wendy Sartori, Inc., who you should all know who live in Palm Beach County, is the supervisor of elections. And coming up on March 17th will be her first election, because we didn't have any elections in 2019. So come out and see what she has to say. I'm sure she'll encourage everybody to vote if you're not already registered to vote, and talk about, she's got all new equipment. And she needed equipment to recount ballots in Palm Beach Gardens, or Riviera Beach. But on the local level, and the precinct level, we have nice equipment all along. And so hopefully the new equipment works as good as the old equipment is, as far as that goes. And the underlying headliner, if you will, is going to be Andrea Pacini, and she's going to talk about toll lanes on I-95 through Palm Beach County. Something that I think is a mistake, but that's my opinion. So we're getting them anyway, and you can see the mess that they've had going across Palmetto Park Road for the last couple of years. And so she's going to try to explain where it's going from here. And that's all I've got, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Who else would like to speak? Okay. You sure? Public requests are now closed. It's now time for the approval of the board meeting minutes from January 21st, 2020. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes, Joanne.
Thank you.
Our first item of regular business is the Patrick Park Fields presentation, and I believe Melissa?
Yes. Just for those of you who don't know, Melissa Dawson is our facilities manager, and she's done an outstanding job directing big projects and little projects. One of the largest ones we did this past year was the Patrick Park artificial turf fields, which she handled very well and went through it diligently and efficiently, and we're really happy with the product, and I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, thank you for your time tonight. I thought it was important to me that, for a number of reasons, we didn't have a ribbon cutting for the artificial turf, and one of those is because we want to get the kids out and playing on it as quickly as possible. And so it was important to me that we asked the partners that we had in this project to come in so that you could see them and we could give them a thank you, at least a verbal thank you and acknowledgement of the work. Because the fields are absolutely gorgeous. That's my personal opinion, but I've heard a lot of that feedback, so I can speak on behalf of that. So we have members of CSR and CGA and the City Recreation Services here that worked very closely with us on this project. We had meetings every 2 weeks, and we brought the top project under budget, and we also brought it in. The final of the project, I am considering the time with the rain delays we have, the most important part, and I kept telling Paul this, and Tim and Kenton really worked to make it happen, was that we stayed on track with those two southernmost fields, because they were critical in getting our young people out on the field and participating in the timeline for their sport starting up this fall. So they were able to do that for us, and that was incredibly important, and so we're very proud of that fact. So what I'd like to do now is representing CGA here tonight is Sharif, and he was our engineering project manager, and Michael, who was the landscape engineer. Yeah, you guys can just come up, or at least stand up so people know who you are. One of the things that I will say, and this takes a great architect slash engineering firm and a great construction firm, can be reflected sometimes, in my opinion, of course, the number of change orders you have. We only had 10 change orders in this entire project, and 2 of those change orders were actually credits back to us. And one of them was a additional piece of equipment that we decided we wanted to purchase to help maintain the fields as we went along. So really, we only had 7 total change orders, and I think that shows a lot of both the design and the implementation of the design. So I wanted to acknowledge that as well. So this is our CGA representative here. From CSR, we have with us Paul, president, Yvonne, who's the general manager, Kenton, who was a project manager, and then Tim Johnson, who was our superintendent. And so Tim was out there seeing us come by every day saying, can we be on them yet, Tim? Can we be on them yet, Tim? Tim, how come the nets aren't up? Tim, we've got to have the goalpost up. So he dealt with a lot of that. And Paul still owes me a tractor. I don't know what he's doing to own that, but somehow Bob McSweeney, who was with CGA, was in all of our meetings as well. He and I came up that Paul owes us a tractor, but we don't have one, but I'll keep working on that. But anyhow, an absolute pleasure to work with this team, and I thank them for everything they've done. But I would be remiss without also bringing up and acknowledging Alex Keller and Kevin from City Recreation Services. Beckman, if you guys would come up too, because you know, it's one thing for me who's not going to be out on those fields scheduling them every day and using them every day to sit in a construction meeting and try to keep a project on schedule and make sure when we look at change orders that we look at it from the standpoint of the people that are going to have to schedule and use it every day and make it work. And so it was very important to me that in the partnership that the City Recreation Services had individuals at all of these meetings too, so we could get their feedback. So Kevin came and Alex came, and I will also say Alex is like the hero of the year for his work with, and I think you'll see the heads nodding, with helping us through the permitting on some of these. So anyhow, I just wanted to give a minute, if you don't mind, to acknowledge all of these individuals and thank them for all the work they did. And Joel was terrific with the city as well. He's not here, but Joel did a terrific job. He's the on-site district supervisor for athletic field maintenance. So thank you guys all very much for everything you did.
Thank you all very, very much. Those fields are beautiful. They are exquisite. Very proud of them to be part of the Beach and Park District in the city. Thank you. Okay, the next thing, and thank you, Melissa. The Swimming Racket Club pool and deck resurfacing. Brianne?
Commissioners, on page 5 of your agenda packets is a memo from Melissa regarding the bids. We went out to bid twice for the pool deck and resurfacing project. We did get one bid back the second go around. It was way over what we had estimated for the budget. At this point, we just would like to have a motion tonight to reject it as a recommendation. We can't go back out to bid this year because time-wise, we wouldn't be able to get it done before the summer. We can't close the pool during the summer, so we want to reject it this year and look at doing it next year and budgeting for it in that way.
So moved. Second. Quick question.
Discussion?
Just a quick question,
Yes.
Brianna. Are we okay from a safety standpoint?
Yes.
We don't have the issues there in the postponing? Okay.
How long can we postpone?
We would look at it next year and see if it could fit into the priorities of projects.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the one comment I have is that, to me, it looks pretty good out there, so I don't think it's that horrible particularly for over 100,000. And the second part of it would be, it's really a bigger question about the pool, its design, its use, and its intended use. I'm not sure if that pool is like a regulation type design that would be for swim meets and all those kind of things, and what would it take to do that? Wouldn't it be better to think it through after the needs assessment to confirm what do we want in the pool, what we need pools in the area, and do we have it here, and if we have to do something to change it, get on the plan to change that pool to be more in line with what is needed. So I'd like to broaden the scope of it rather than just say next year we're gonna go out and resurface it.
Agreed.
Okay. So are you asking if we should expand it?
If it needs to be expanded to be, I don't know, I honestly don't know, but I do know that there are certain requirements for swim meets. And I don't see any swim meets here, and I don't know why. So I'm just saying if it should be adjusted to do that, we should think about doing that and do it right. Rather than invest in a patch that is gonna be torn up later or we do something. More important to me is what's going on with the needs assessment and make sure that we're doing things that are in alignment, short-term and long-term. So,
Okay.
that's the thought.
Thank you. Erin?
Well, I was just gonna say, Brian should talk to the Parks and Rec, cause I think, they used to have meets at Meadows,
I still do.
yeah, so, just to coordinate with them on it.
Will do.
Good idea. So there's a motion. Is there any more discussion? All in favor of tabling this until next year, please say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes, Joanne. Thank you. Number 3 is the communication RFP. Brianne?
Commissioners, on page 6 in your agenda packets is a memo that I wrote back in December. We had a lot of capable firms respond to our communications RFP, and I'm grateful for their time. I know everybody spent a lot of time putting in their proposals. We've also spent a lot of time these last few months reviewing our budget, and I think at one point I wanted to look at hiring a person to do it for us. At this point, I would like to also table this and move forward with just using some freelance workers as we go along and wait for the needs assessment to come back. Because a part of the needs assessment was also communications, and I want to work with the city to make sure that we are not overlapping and doing things that they are already going to be addressing through the needs assessment, so that we can make sure we're strategizing and being very effective with communication. We need a motion.
Yeah,
just
we
to-
need a motion.
Your communication.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes, Joanne. Moving right along, Mr. Ernst. Page 11 of your,
Here is in your folder. We don't have a chance to talk about it.
Okay.
That's what I have.
So, oh, there it is. Okay, I got it. I'd like to make a motion for approval of invoices for $90,618.43. That is deducting the $27,500. Alternatively, we could approve it. I just had a couple questions on it, and because that's the final closeout, and we just got the invoice right before these things were prepared, I thought, let's take our time to make sure that, legal signed off, we have all our warranties. It did have a scope of work saying additional work, a little general in its nature for the change, but I want to just give it an opportunity to look at it a little bit further.
We want to move it to the next meeting, so
Okay, so the motion at hand is for $90,618.43. Approval of invoices.
Second.
discussion, commissioners? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes, Joanne. Okay. We are now up to the reports and discussion items. Our Executive Director, Brianne Harms, is first.
Commissioners, I want to thank, Tom Thayer actually sent me an email this week about the State of the City address, which will take place at the same time as our next meeting in February. So just so everybody's aware, there may be some competition with our audience, I guess, to go to that instead. So I didn't know if we wanted to discuss moving our meeting or just keep our meeting as it is. Our microphones do not like one another.
I'd like to move our meeting. I think it'd be a good idea to have a presence at this, whether we were formally invited or not. Maybe just move it up a day.
We had it put on the 18th because the holiday is the 17th, so
Right.
that would be Wednesday, the 19th.
Right.
I'm good.
Fine.
You sure?
Oh, no, I have soccer practice. I mean, I'm coaching, so, on Wednesday night, I can't, I have to be at that.
Wednesday is the ninth, it's the 18th.
We're not, 17th President's Day, so we're
Right.
close, right? I'd say.
So maybe the 20th. I mean, I'm good, you know, I have no social life whatsoever. So.
That was moved to the next Monday, the 24th. That would jam us up to.
It does join us up. Or we leave it and that's just what it is.
Let's leave it.
Okay.
Let's leave it.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to have somebody there, just as a representation. I don't know how, you know, maybe one a member of the staff or something.
Would you like to be excused, Steve?
Do I need to know from home?
Yeah. I nominate you to go, and
No,
we'll
that's
still
all
pay
right.
you $80.
Well, I won't go unless you pay me $80. With all due respect to the mayor,
Yeah.
I think this meeting would be 1,000 times more interesting. But nonetheless, maybe we can have a member of staff, maybe Melissa,
Okay, I'll leave it there.
and we would compensate you for your time, at least in popcorn.
I didn't hear what the date was.
The 18th.
It's the same night as our meeting. We'll have to talk about it. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Okay. On that note, at the joint meeting last week, we talked about scheduling our next joint meeting. And on our calendars, we already have the 13th. I just want to confirm everybody's good with the 13th because of April, sorry. We had a tentative date set to go over the needs assessment with both city council as well as you all. And we will just keep that as a joint meeting regardless. I talked to Susan Saxon today. The dates were the April 13th or the 27th,
So the
April
13th is our
13th,
the
joint
joint
meeting.
meeting.
Easter Monday, is that like a holiday?
No,
Because Easter's
I
on
mean,
the
it's-
12th, I don't know.
It is on the calendar, but there's no,
Okay,
we're open.
okay.
There's
So
no-
Easter's the 12th?
Easter's the 12th.
Okay.
And the time would be what to read?
Probably 6 o'clock for the joint meeting.
Yeah. And 3 hours.
I blocked out 3 hours, yeah. I just wanted to confirm everybody's good with April 13th,
Yes.
because regardless, we'll just have a joint meeting that night, okay?
And at community center or 6500?
I'm not sure where it'll be.
Okay,
I'll talk to Susan Saxon tomorrow and confirm that out.
okay, thank you.
Okay, we had some issues with FPL. They removed some fencing along Jeffrey Street over by the golf course, so they're gonna start planting some vegetation there next week on Monday, and it should be done next week. So that will start getting filled in. We also had the power lines that were placed on the Jeffrey Street on the east side, which Commissioner Rollins brought up. The city was not aware that that happened either, so nobody knew. I talked to Mike Vick about it, he didn't know about it either. So we didn't get notification. They do have an easement there. We do have an option of burying those lines. The cost would range from $155,000 to $235,000, and it takes a 10% down payment just to get the ball rolling on it. I think we should wait until we know where the approval process is going with the city before we invest any more over there at this point. If everybody's good with that, I just want to put it out there that this is where we're at with it.
Yeah, not only did they remove the vegetation, I mean, they damaged every piece of fence along that south side of Clintmore, and I think that they should be, I mean, we need to fence that property.
Melissa's working with them on it, so they're gonna fill it with vegetation, and then the rest, it's, there's gonna be like 400 feet that we'll do fencing there too to fix it up.
Which they're gonna pay for.
She's working with them on this, yes.
Don't let them up off the map.
The fence was not, the fence is damaged, it wasn't Florida Power that damaged the fence. Florida Power then went in there and removed the greenery. The greenery had, some of it had intertwined and damaged the fence. So we met out there, walked through it, there's 800 feet of it where they're gonna plant in front of it. And then there's 400 feet left, some of which can be removed and some of which we can repair.
Well,
Well, we're not gonna let up on.
okay, all right.
I gotcha.
Well, on that thought though, why not, I mean, as a homeowner association that is involved with FPNL or underground lines or poles, I say you need to do it now. And whether we pay for it or the city pays for it later, I think we need to press the case that it needs to be underlined, otherwise you're gonna have a terrible looking area for it. And by the way, you're just seeing the wires that FPNL put on it. You know, there's a whole triage of folks who are coming right behind them with their own cable wires and all the other stuff. So I would much rather suggest, for the benefit of the community and the golf course over there, that it be underground right now, right away, and they shouldn't have done it. And so the 155,000 doesn't scare me because they haven't gone to a full estimate of it. But yes, we would have to incur the cost of doing it, but I think it's one of those things you save for everyone, the power, the hurricanes, everything later. So they shouldn't have done what they did without talking to someone before they did it.
Agreed. So does the board want to move forward with burying those lines? Is the 10% down just to get the quote? And the 10% is ranging between 15 to 23,000.
The way I read that is that they'll give us credit for that if
Yes.
we move forward.
Yes.
If not, then we've lost those
Right.
funds.
It all applies to the total.
I agree with Craig. It's unsightly. Whatever happens to the course over there, it's unsightly. And they never should have done that without talking to us. And with the idea that they're burying most lines and hardening their other structures, I just have a hard time to believe that they put creosote poles across the property. I'd be inclined to go with Craig's motion.
Would you make a motion?
Yes, so I make a motion to work with FPNL to bury the power lines along Jeffrey Street, Clintmore, such that we do provide a 10% deposit and start the negotiations and the contractual discussions to have underground wires along the area.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion. Erin?
Yeah, just one question. I drive by there every day, so there's a sign that says construction to start on the 11th. I believe it's for the bridge.
These poles are over on the east side of the property.
Okay, so I just want to make sure whatever, there's construction on something.
Yeah, I think it's on the bridge, like you said.
the north
area.
side?
Well, they're gonna have, because of the toll lanes, I think, I understand they're gonna have to raise the bridge on Clintmore over 95. That's what I understand. So I don't know whether that means they're going to, what they're gonna do with it.
Mr. Chaffee, you went to that meeting, didn't you?
Yeah, the bridge is, it's gonna be, they're gonna do the same thing to the Spanish River Bridge, they're gonna knock down half of the time, and then they're gonna raise it. But along with that bridge also, there's a 10-foot sidewalk on the south side, that's the fenced area that you're talking about, where they're gonna plant all the bushes and trees. I'm not sure where they're going to put that 10-foot sidewalk.
I would agree, I would stop the vegetation.
I was just talking, they have a set of plans already for it.
Okay.
You understand where I'm going with this?
Yep, no, I
Instead
totally
of putting it down and take it up again.
Well, we've got to do something out there with the fencing in the area that's there. We don't put vegetation in, we need to replace the fence, tear the fence down, because right now it's being reported as a code violation. So we've got to address the issue right now.
Well, there is a
Right,
set
but
of
if
plans,
they're-
we have to see it, exactly what they're going to do.
If
as
they're
far
gonna
as
be
that
doing
sidewalk.
work there though, to plant something, they might be taking that back up again, right? I don't know.
I don't think where these are gonna be planted, because you've got where our fence was, and then you have the poles right alongside it, and they're literally going right up against where our fence was, because it's doing it to cover the part of the fence that was damaged.
Right.
So
Sounds like,
they're bumping it right up to where our fence and our property line is.
Just wanted to mention the upcoming construction, because if we put something in, they could tear it right back up, so.
sounds like we need more information about that so that we can move forward properly on that. I think that area needs to be fenced off, but it doesn't make any sense to put it down and take it out again. And I certainly don't want to put the fence any further on the course. So I think we need to take a look at, what our options are.
Okay.
And I think you're gonna still run into a problem with FPNL, just the fact that you're coming back to them after they put up the poles to put it underground, they are not gonna like that. So,
But that's their own doing.
Well, yeah, we've talked to them about this, nobody can
They
figure out
offered
if they notified, and this is what they've come back with, is what the offer is, yes.
Yeah, I talked to them directly, they didn't have a problem, they just said it would be $200 to $300 per foot, so I went out there and measured it all, so I could get a range. And they said that's the estimate they'll give us at this time, but we want more detailed estimate, we gotta do the, like she said, the deposit, a 10% deposit of what they're estimating the price will be. Then that gets credited back to us as we move forward with the project.
Okay.
So, but we're talking
But
about
we'll
two
table,
different things.
yeah,
I understand.
we're gonna table the vegetation and get a quote for the burying the lines.
Well, we have a motion and we're discussing, so we haven't voted on it yet. Is there any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Now we. Okay,
Um,
right along.
The only other thing I had was that I met with Richard and Ed from the National Golf Foundation to talk about phasing the project. So they're gonna start working on that. And we're working on we're just working on the fees for that, and then I'll come back to everybody once we have that ironed out. That's it.
District Council, Mr. Horowitz?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, good evening, I have none.
Ah,
Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioners, Mrs. Wright? Okay, Mr. Engel?
Just one quick question. Have we heard back from the city with regard to the information they need to go ahead and consider approval of the golf course design?
No, we have not heard anything back yet.
That's it.
Mr. Ernst?
Thinking about it. Look, I just want to reflect on what we heard for 3 hours at the last meeting. And, you know, I think we did the right thing, we stuck to our guns. I applaud Brianne for fielding the interrogation of our capital projects and financial side of things. So I don't think many people could do what Brianne did. And I thought she did a very good job of explaining it. So, but going forward, I guess a couple things what's clear to me is that, number one, the city would really like to take over this project. They'd like to take it at no cost. Number two, I think part of the ill will and bad feelings is, although it's never really clearly stated, I do believe we got in the middle of their transaction with GL Homes and their Lennar when we bought it, and so there's this bad attitude, but that's all kind of done behind us. We can't do anything with that. Number three, they really do want to have a role in this whole golf course some way, somehow in the future. And when we bought it, we said that they would be absolutely running it. And I think, you know, as we go forward now with the whole thing, I don't think they can do it any faster than we can do it, even if we had their money on it. But I think the important part of it is that we get it done, and that we do have a Price Fazio design, and that we move forward as we suggested in the meeting. And I really don't want to go through another meeting of 3 hours discussions on nothing. And I don't think that they can do it in an exponential time frame. I don't know of any city project, capital project that they're speedy and quick at. I think this is one thing where the district can do it, and they can do it, you know, fairly timely and with good. It's not a difficult thing, we can do this. But at the same token, going forward, what they're really looking for, I think, is input on some of it. They're not gonna get to take it over. I think we need to be very friendly on working with them as partners, even though, you know, there's been a lot of resistance. So having joint meetings so that they can participate in it, or inviting them on a regular basis as we go forward with the whole thing, I think they'll see the value of us running this project and implementing it, and that it will be a phenomenal golf course when it's done. It will be a good project for residents and visitors and those who live in the Boca Chica area. But Boca Chica does need, you know, more work. So it's not just us. There's roads, there's sidewalks, there's FP&L poles. To make this thing look right, it needs to be done collaboratively. And so we won't be able to do it just ourselves. We need to work with the city and kind of embrace it. That's my thoughts.
Thank you. You all set? Bob?
No, you know, I wasn't gonna say anything that I didn't say at our joint meeting, but, you know, I did have an opportunity to have coffee with a member of council this morning. And I asked the question, I said, did you ever hear or see any document that represented the fact that the city was negotiating with Lennar on the golf course? course, and we outpaced him, and he said no. And the only person I've ever only heard say that was one member of city council, and it was strange because when as Mayor Singer said, the ex-mayor approached the district about us getting involved in it, I would have thought that that would have been an opportunity to say that the city was working on it, or she shouldn't have brought it to us at all. If the city was working on it, they shouldn't have come forward to us. So I don't know where that rumor came from, but I did manage to clarify about a half a dozen issues that had come up as to why I felt the way I did about the contractual relationship and the issues that we deal with the city, and some of the fake news that I've heard from them, and even in our discussion. And some of the things that have come up recently in workshops or issues regarding the district, have been occasionally less than complimentary about us. And I said, that just doesn't do any good for our relationship to have those kind of comments, negative or otherwise. No, there's no argument. I wasn't trying to convince this person one way or the other. I just want to get the facts straight with you regarding a number of things that have taken place in clarifying the matter, because I think that there's a way that we can develop a golf course and have the city partner with us in some ways. You mentioned, Craig, I don't think it's totally out of the question, but I think that we're better at the recreation business because that's where all of our funds go, is into recreation. And fortunately, the city has wonderful staff that we can work with to maintain our property. Look at what we have, and it's due to the city staff. But when it comes to this, at the higher level, spending money on a project, we're quicker to pull the trigger on funding and developing something than we did. And I went back and reminded the councilman of how we got into phase 2 in Spanish River. We were handed the drawings when they were 60% done and said, can you take over and finish the project? We did. $10 million on the budget, by the way. So I'm hopeful. This was just a meeting because I wanted to try to reestablish a relationship with council, so we could have meaningful discussion without having to have these 3-hour debates, if you would. So, and then the final comment is that I attended a meeting at, I'm not sure how to describe it. Gumbo Limbo had a guest speaker who was Gordon Gilbert, who had served on this commission, and he was talking about the history of Gumbo Limbo. And it was very informative to hear him talk about how, because he's been on the Parks and Rec Board for some 44 years. And he was involved in getting Gumbo Limbo going. And the interesting thing that he made a comment, he said when it first started, the city wasn't interested in participating in the project. The Palm Beach County Schools were the catalyst for this and the funding mechanism. But when they saw the 22 to 30,000 people start showing up, then there was more interest in helping them with this project, and it's been a great success story. And somebody like that, they actually videoed this for posterity because someday Gordon will not be here with us to share that story. But I thought it was an excellent show of what can be done in a project. And Gordon was the primary mover and the shaker in getting that done, and one person can make a difference, and he did. So that's all.
In that spirit, sorry, just wanted to follow up on it, is one, on Brianne's questions out of the meeting, there's a lot of questions with our credit capabilities, our facilities and doing things, and one that highlights to me, look, we are the smaller fish in this pond. So going forward on budgets and things, we can commit to projects where we have a fixed dollar amount, but we can't commit to open-ended things, and I think that's problematic, and so that's top of the list, that, if we're gonna commit to a project, we are committing, not the capital project of the piping project, it's the capital project of, we're donating $1 million, that's it. or $2 million, whatever the estimate is, we have our conversation and we're done. We can't get into the big unknowns and them running it, not knowing it, so now we're at 3 or 4 million. They have to manage it, and that overruns falls on them. So I certainly wouldn't want to get involved in another big project, whether it's a maintenance facility, not knowing what it's going to run, and all that. So that's part of the overall relationship. Our immediate thing going forward is the golf course and managing our stuff, what we need to manage, and if we commit to doing something, we do it, and we finish it out. In that spirit, I don't know, there's a lot of questions about I think just throwing stuff against the wall that says, you don't have the capabilities, you don't have any of this stuff. I think one way of solving it is not my opinion or anyone else's opinion, our credit capacity. We could go out and get our credit rating now. And that just takes a little bit of time and effort with Merv and team, and I'm confident that it will be investment grade. I'm confident that'll put to bed anyone who's questioning our financial capacity to do a project. As long as you're planning a project, we're doing what we're supposed to do, and I think we'll come in with a very good credit rating. So that's option number one, if we want to do that now or wait. My initial plan was to kind of wait this year of how we're doing it, didn't anticipate us getting so deep into the golf business. But we could do that, I'm confident we'll go away. The second thing I'd like to, for the group to think about is, if we're doing this, I think we should get our project manager, the golf project manager, identified. And that means getting an RFP out there, start surveying the market, because we need to get going on it. And I think let's pick one, at least get out there with an RFP, find out who's out there, who manages these things, and tell us why, because that will take a few months to get that all sorted out, and I'd rather get ahead of the game to do this. So, Madam Chair.
I have a question. Is there any downside to getting a credit rating?
No, the downside is the cost to it. The credit rating, when your initial rating will be discussed with you beforehand, so if it's not AAA rated and you want to be AAA rated, you can say, I don't want to have an issue, and you depart.
And what is the cost?
You can pull the plug on it completely.
What is the cost?
For you.
The costs will be, and they have to come back with letting us know all the stuff that they'll need, and I'm waiting to get another call back, just because I was looking into the cost of all this, between $6,000 and $12,000, and it's 75% of whatever the fee is to get to that indicator, and then from there you decide if you want to make it public, you pay the remaining 25% to go forward.
I think it's a good thing to do because it basically gives a third party, oversight from a financial perspective and some guidance on it. And if you look around the area, most municipal entities are strongly rated. So,
Are we able to confirm with Jerry Ford, or did we table his
We could,
relationship?
we could confer with him, I don't know that we would need to, just to reach out and get quotes and find out the process. I don't know if it's necessary right now.
Madam Chair,
He's not involved in that, that's why I'm.
Right.
yeah, Jerry Ford is a consultant. So if you choose to hire Jerry Ford as a consultant to advise you on this, we can. The alternative, though, is Moody's is evaluating us, not Jerry Ford. So what they're going to look at is they're going to ask for a 5 to 10 year history of our financial statements. They're going to look to meet, selected numbers of us, and they're going to look for indications of what we're working on in the future. And so out of all that, they'll do their own analysis, they'll create their ratios. The tricky part is to make sure the calculations of the ratios are correct. And so that's where Jerry does add some value in that he will say, well, this is what other municipalities have, and kind of comparing them, because our Merv would know if these are reasonable compared to others. We don't have to make that decision quite yet, but whether it's Moody's or S&P, there's only two, realistically, and I would say go with the one who gives you the kind of partial, decide what you want to do or not.
Okay, Erin, did you have?
Yeah, I just have a question. I don't know much about this stuff at all, like you do. But you keep saying municipality. We don't have any municipality, so is this something appropriate for a taxing district to do?
Yeah, same
It
thing.
is? Okay,
It's government funding is the way I'm looking at it, so we'll find out.
okay.
We're definitely different than the city of Boca.
Right.
Would you like to make a motion to proceed with this?
Okay. I'll make a motion to proceed with the selection of a credit rating firm for preliminary discussions and ultimately a credit rating.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Joanne? Thank you, Craig.
What about the Gulf manager?
Okay. I think we should also consult with our designer about when we should proceed with this, because Wayne has said repeatedly that we don't need a project manager to date. Should we hold off until we get the final approval before we start promising somebody a job?
I think we can start working on the RFP, at least.
Yeah, we're not promising anything to anybody, we're just trying to get some information.
Okay.
And based on that, we can make a decision, and based on that and what happens with the design approval, we can make a decision as far as whether we're gonna hire somebody or not.
Okay, and you will work with Wayne on
Yes.
the RFP.
We're not gonna release the RFP,
No, I'll just write it and bring it back to you guys to review.
okay?
Okay.
And I would check with Wayne too, to see what his feeling. When we make our final submission or whatever we're going to, as requested by the city joint meeting, didn't we have a 45-day turnaround time where we wanted a response within 45 days?
Yes.
Okay, so I would hope that we would know something sooner than 45 days. And if we're getting what we feel like is a green light, perhaps we can then, release that RFP.
Okay.
I think you want to do that only because even Royal Palm, it's a Jack Nicklaus design, I believe. They use a third-party project management company to oversee it.
Well, I think it's absolutely necessary that we do that.
Yeah,
So I think that's,
So if we, if the city comes back and says, we want something else, or they don't want to do this or that, I think we need to move forward with the east side, and
Well,
so.
let's wait to see what Mr. Singer comes up with too, with the NGF.
Yeah, well, granted, I expect NGF is going to give us a recommendation, but they're mutually exclusive. If the city delays further or declines to give permission, what do you want to do? I mean, I'm a planning type person, so my plan is fine. We're not working on your property, we're working on ours, and meet our project manager, and here's our plan, and, we're moving forward without you, and that's okay. We'll make this site even nicer.
Well, but it's a project as a whole, I don't know, I mean, is it, I don't know.
Well, but the thing is, Aaron, we have a plan and a design, and it took us a long time to get there with that. And so,
Right.
yes, there's gonna be a lot of field adjustments as they go forward in it, but I don't think the residents nor the golfers would really, obviously they'd like the 18 holes first, and I do too. But I think we have to be prepared for what if you don't get approval?
Right, but we also have to just be smart with how we do the project. I don't wanna jump the gun on just saying, oh, well, it's not approved, let's just go ahead straight away and do the east side. If NGF suggests don't do that,
Well, they're gonna give us that.
Right.
We'll find out before we hire a project manager anyway.
right, yeah.
it seems to be, we definitely will need a project manager. I'm just not sure that now is the time to pull the trigger on it. I'd like to have the RFP so that when that time is right, and it may be in another 2 or 3 weeks. But today, I don't feel like I have enough information where I want to
Yeah.
put it out and then offer somebody hope that we have a job. I saw the disappointed faces on one group of vendors when we closed out the communication issue, and I hate to see that happen again. If we're
No,
gonna-
but I definitely think we should write it and get it
Yeah,
prepared, for
absolutely,
sure.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and I'd like to see what we did, what the NGF has to say as far as going ahead with the golf course project.
The
Can we
phasing
build-
is-
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I'd like to have a motion about having Brian write the RFP for the project manager, please.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that our executive director draft a sample RFP for a project manager for the Boca National Golf Course.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes, Joanne. All righty. We good? Okay. I just want to thank our staff. Every time I ask for something or ask a question about something, I get a positive answer or I get an answer. And also our district council, we really appreciate it. We would like to extend our very best to Sam and hope he's back in the saddle soon.
I don't want to speak out of turn, Madam Chair, but he's hoping to be with you at your next meeting.
Okay, Steve, you're up. Oh, wait a minute.
What?
Future agenda items, Bria,
Um,
no pressure.
We will hopefully have the banking RFP to review at the next meeting. And that'll be checked off the list.
Anything about the CRA?
I don't know that I'll have anything at the next meeting.
Okay. Okay. Commissioners, anything else that you'd like to have brought up?
It's your last chance.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Bob.
I know we're approaching at the end of our ILA on Blades Fields, and that's coming up September of this year. And there's been some discussion with, I know with Bree and Melissa and I talked to some of the folks over there about, a final ILA that we could consider. And I would just ask that you follow through with these guys and see if we can't get something, in our second meeting for today, so that we could, because I think we have close to making an agreement that we can live with and they can live with, and I think we should do it sooner than later.
Okay.
So.
Oh, I have one, too. Apparently they want to have a ribbon cutting for the sunscreen dispensers. Do we have any kind of a timeline on that?
We don't, the only other option would be that we could put the sunscreen dispensers out, and then when they get that process done with the city, we could then have a ribbon cutting at that point. We could look at that, if you want to do that first. We're waiting to find out that Lauren and the family wanted to have a ribbon cutting when we install the sunscreen dispensers. We could go ahead and get a timeline together to put them in the facilities, and then when she wants to have a ribbon cutting after they've been installed, we could do that too.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Wow.
Okay.
It's like the old days.